welcome to Barca News. It is June 27, 2026. And ladies and gentlemen, Barcelona have tied down another academy wonderkid. I'm going to tell you who it is. Also, Atletico Madrid launching a full offensive to put pressure on Julian Alvarez and convince him to stay. And finally, one of Barcelona's targets, well, I was going to say he's slipping away, but he's actually completely slipped away. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Bo, and welcome to this quick live. This is not a podcast. This is just a quick live to give you all Barcelona news because today I was watching all of the World Cup matches. In fact, the Argentina match just began, but I found out that Messi is not starting. So I was like, all right, let me do a really quick live, get all this news out, and then go back down and watch that match, because before that I was watching the Colombia match against Portugal, and before that I was watching the England versus Panama match, so I didn't have any times to make videos. But let's dive right into it, because I'm sure you guys also want to watch the Argentina versus Jordan match. So let's start with the news, because Barcelona are set to receive a small financial boost, but nonetheless is still a financial boost, and that's thanks to the former academy player Sergi Altimira. If you don't remember who Sergi Altimira is, he's now a 24-year-old midfielder. He spent some time at La Masia, and well, now Real Betis have sold him to Sporting CP for 18.5 million euros plus 2 million euros in variables. And you might say, Mo, what does this have to do with Barcelona? Well, as I explained in a previous video, there's a FIFA program that rewards clubs that develop players. So every time a player is sold to another club, FIFA takes 5% of that transfer fee and divides it up amongst the clubs that helped develop that player. And that is why Barcelona are going to receive around 1.5 million euros from the transfer of Marco Cucurella from Chelsea to Madrid, since Barcelona helped develop that player. And well, now since Barcelona helped develop Sergi Altimira, FIFA is going to take some of that money that Sporting CP have paid to Real Betis for his transfer, and they're going to divide it up amongst the clubs that helped develop Sergi Altimira, with Barcelona receiving 400,000 euros, which I know is not a lot of money, but if you put it together with the 1.5 that Barcelona will get from Madrid for Cucurella, well, it means Barcelona will now make 2 million euros without moving a single finger. Now, this, of course, is very important, because it just shows how important our academy is, La Masia, because not only does it develop some of the best players in history and in the world, not only does it develop players for the first team, but also it makes the club money when they sell those players. And even when those players get sold between other clubs, Barcelona still make money because Barcelona helped develop and shape those players. Ladies and gentlemen, La Masia, not only the best academy in the world, but also an important asset for the club, not just for developing players, but also financially speaking. Now, speaking of La Masia, ladies and gentlemen, we have great news, because Barcelona have secured and tied down one of their brightest prospects currently in the academy, who's no other than Ruslan Mba. If you don't know who Ruslan Mba is, he's a 16-year-old left-footed winger. He mostly plays as a left winger. However, he can also play as a right winger, and sometimes he's even played as a center forward. He's an incredibly talented winger. He has plenty of pace. He has direct dribbling, and he has that, ability to take on defenders 1v1. And that is why he has been consistently compared to Lamine Yamal. Not to say that this player will be like the next Lamine Yamal, but because he has a very similar profile to Lamine Yamal. Now, Ruslan Mba just turned 16 years old, and as you know, under FIFA rules, once a player is 16, they can officially sign their first professional contract. And well, that's what Barcelona has done. They have secured this guy by giving him his first professional contract. And this is important because a lot of European clubs were trying to steal this guy away. But Barcelona said, you're not touching our wonderkid, Ruslan Mba. Again, a very, very important prospect currently in La Masia, who will now be staying at Barcelona a bit longer. We don't know how long the contract is. Usually when you're under 18, you can sign for 3 years maximum. I imagine that's how long that contract is. But usually with underage kids, Barcelona doesn't reveal the details of the contract. They just announced that Ruslan Mba has signed his first professional contract. My guess, most likely, it's for 3 more seasons. And of course, this is great news. Now, on to the next bit of news because, ladies and gentlemen, Atletico Madrid are launching a full offensive to convince Julian Alvarez to stay at Atletico de Madrid. Now, as you know, Julian Alvarez sat down with Atletico Madrid back in February, told them he no longer believed in their project and that he wanted to leave and wanted to join Barcelona. Since then, even though Atletico Madrid promised him that, yes, he could leave, since then, Atletico Madrid have made an absolute fools of themselves. They first started with those tweets, making fun of Barcelona's interest. Then they went on, reached an agreement with Arsenal, which Julian said, that's not where I want to go. Then they reached an agreement with PSG, which Julian said, that's not where I want to go. Finally, Julian texted Gilmarin, who had promised to help him go to Barcelona, and said, hey, man, you promised me. Gilmarin said, well, F your promise. So Julian, of course, got really upset. He felt betrayed and went on and made those public statements after Argentina's victory over Austria, saying that he wanted to leave Atletico de Madrid. Now, this, of course, caused a lot of anger at Atletico, with them kind of getting really upset and, threatening to file a complaint against Barcelona with FIFA, even though FIFA would have no jurisdiction here because this is a transfer in between two Spanish clubs. They also were saying that they were expecting an apology from Julian. People were saying that Julian had betrayed them. So they kind of took that more harsh position of kind of like vilifying Julian Alvarez. But now Atletico have noticed that, well, that doesn't work. So now they're shifting their tone. And instead of being aggressive and, trying to put pressure on Julian in an aggressive manner, saying he's not going anywhere, you either pay his release clause or nothing. Now they're trying to, do it the nice way, the sweet way, right? Try to catch more flies with honey. And what do I mean by that? Well, the club have been reaching out to Julian Alvarez virtually since he's in the World Cup, kind of try to convince him in a nice way, like, hey, you're very important for us. We value you. We want you to be here. They have been instructing their players, the locker room, their teammates of Julian who haven't gone to the World Cup, to text him and be like, hey, Julian, like, we love you, bro. Just stay with us. Kind of like trying to make him feel guilty, make him feel loved so he can reconsider and say, wow, maybe it's a mistake. I go to Barca. The club really appreciates me. My teammates really appreciate me. They all want me to stay here. And in fact, they're even saying that Atletico are trying to use the Champions League as a way to convince Julian to stay. What do I mean by that? It's, of course, the Champions League final next season will be at the Metropolitano, the Atletico Madrid stadium. So they're trying to tell him, like, look, man, this last season we made it to the semifinal. Maybe you can make history with us, help us get to the final and win it. And not only would it be the first Champions League that Atletico would win in their history, but it would be done at their home stadium. So they're kind of trying to lure him with that. And they're even going an extra step because they're saying now Gilmarin, the guy who promised Julian that he would help him leave the club, has now caught a plane and come here to the U.S. They're saying he's trying to meet with Julian and convince him face to face. So Atletico now getting a little desperate, seeing that Julian wants to leave. I personally think it's kind of too late because, Julian, the way he did, the way he handled the situation, he did it in a very professional, respectful way. He sat down with Gilmarin face to face, in person, in private, told him that he wanted to leave the Barca. Gilmarin promises him that, okay, and then they go make all these stupid steps, making a fool out of themselves. And I think that has only angered Julian. In fact, there are people within Atletico Madrid that have spoken to Julian, and they say that he is so mad and he feels so betrayed that they think he might not even want to practice or train once he comes back from the World Cup. So to me, I think it's a little bit late. Had Atletico Madrid not made a fool of themselves, had they not, made those tweets or Twitter posts, have they not reached agreements with PSG and Arsenal, have they not, threatened lawsuits and acting like victims and all the statements and blah, 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 maybe this strategy would have worked. Maybe had Julian gone and said, hey, I want to leave, and then right away Atletico would have said, no, stay, we love you, blah, blah, blah. Maybe he would have reconsidered. But no, they made a fool out of themselves. They turned this whole thing into a circus, and now they want to go back and say, no, sorry, bro, we love you. I think it's too late, but of course we're going to have to wait and see. Now, on to the next bit of news, and this one is not about Julian, but is somewhat related to Julian because one of Barcelona's targets is, well, it's not slipping away, has completely slipped away, and it's no other than Fisnik Aslani, the 23-year-old center forward who was playing for Hoffenheim, someone at Barcelona we're keeping very close eye on because very promising center forward. In fact, they're calling him the new Lewandowski, someone that Barcelona even spoke to him and his agent declaring their interest in him. Fisnik, someone that has consistently said he wanted to come to Barca. And even though there was interest from both sides, an agreement was never reached because, of course, Barcelona are now just waiting for Julian, the whole saga to end. And while Fisnik, of course, like any normal player, has gotten tired of waiting, and he has now joined Dortmund with Dortmund, who have paid the 30 million euro release clause. So it looks like Barcelona will miss out on his target. And well, this is what happens, of course, when you're just waiting for one player. All the other players are interested in joining your club. Eventually, they're going to get tired and join other teams, which, of course, begs the question, should Barcelona set a deadline for the Julian Alvarez transfer, or should they go all out and wait for him until the final day of the market? Because, of course, on one hand, he is Barcelona's #1 target. That's who they want. That's who they believe is going to take the club to the next level. But I don't know, on the other hand, what happens if the transfer doesn't work out, market closes, and now you're left without a center forward or without a striker? What do you do then? So my question to you is, would you set a deadline for the transfer of Julian? And if so, when would that be? End of the World Cup, July, August? You guys let me know in the comment section. And with that, this is a wrap. I'm going to go watch Argentina versus Jordan. Hopefully, we'll see some minutes from the GOAT because he's currently on the bench. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. And as always, peace, guys.